The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us on this Monday afternoon or evening. We are here for the first part of our Youth Take Flight for College Success webinar series. Hope you're in the right place. We're very thankful that you're able to join us this evening. Of course, this series is going to be to just try to help and give some guidance, some information, some assistance in helping you be successful in navigating these next steps in your journey towards whatever lies next for your education, whether that's community college, university, whatever it is you see for yourself. Today is, again, part one of that, which is our Youth Take Flight for College Success. And so today we'll be talking about a lot of resources that are out there to help you navigate these journeys. And in particular, the steps you need to be eyeballing now while you're in high school as you prepare for those next steps to help you navigate college entrance, your enrollment, and all those things to get you from where you are right now to college. Next week, we're going to take a much deeper dive into financial aid. We'll probably touch on some of that tonight, but there'll be a much deeper dive next week in the session where we'll be talking about your tuition waivers that you qualify for if you've been a part of the foster care system, the education training voucher, and a lot of the other financial aid resources to help you as you take whatever these next steps in your educational career are going to be. And 2 weeks from tonight, we'll finish up with looking at campus life success. We'll talk about utilizing your foster care liaisons that are available on all public colleges and university campuses in Texas. We'll talk about different campus resources, about habits of being successful once you're in college and just navigating that next stage of your life. And so we hope you join us for all of this. Some business up front. I'm going to be doing some random giveaways for participation. So stay engaged, stay with us this evening, and hopefully, we'll be reaching out to you if you're selected as one of the winners. Also, if you participate in all 3 weeks, there'll be another set of prizes for a random number of selection of youth who participate across all 3 weeks of our series. And so we hope that you guys get something from this. We hope this is helpful to you. After the fact, if there's something you didn't quite catch or you want to hear again or you feel like you need to see again, we're going to make these videos available on our Youth Connections website. I don't know exactly how quickly it'll be uploaded, but if you have questions about that, reach out to your PAL staff. Feel free to reach out to me directly if you need. And so with that, we want to go ahead and get into what we have this week. So I am Todd Serpico. I'm the state office program specialist for our preparation for adult living programs. A lot of our supports that we have for our older foster youth, either currently in care or who used to be in care. And we have two special guests with us this evening. We have Kimberly Nanez from Texas A&M San Antonio, who's the executive director of the Student Success Center there, as well as Norma Davia, who is the coordinator of foster care support services on the same campus. I will hand off to them here briefly in a moment to cover the meat of today. But I want to hit up front about as I said, we want to cover a lot of the resources that are out there for you to help you be successful. You may be aware of some of these things, but if you are part of our PAL program, if you've attended some of our events, you know that we like to bring these up when we can, just to make sure you're aware of all the different ways that we're here to support you, and different supports that are available to you. And so Transitional Living Services is a part of DFPS that includes benefits, supports, and resources for young adults, either currently or formerly in foster care. Most of you probably know that know us through the PAL program, the Preparation for Adult Living. But it also encompasses other things like your education training voucher, which is grants to help you in your time at college, the extended foster care programs, the supervised independent living programs, and other supports that also fall under the Transitional Living Services. The PAL program, of course, exists to help our older youth prepare for their departure and their transition into adulthood. We provide you with a lot of benefits. We put on different events, such as this webinar series, and we're here to cheer for you to help you access things to help you be successful. That includes your life skills assessments, the PAL classes, the life skills training classes, which are, if you haven't already had your classes, I hope you are going to be doing soon. There's other supportive financial assistance available through the PAL program as well. If you have needs, you can make sure and be communicative with your PAL coordinators so that they're aware of those things, so that we can be involved and help support you in any way that you need. Youth who finish your PAL classes after you age out of care also have access to the Transitional Living Allowance, which is a little bit of funding to help you as you start taking those first steps into independence. Of course, also in the PAL program, we have the aftercare case management, which includes the aftercare room and board assistance, which is going to be emergency assistance for youth who have aged out of foster care. But we're here primarily to talk about college, and of course, under that, like I said, next week is going to be the deeper dive into the financial aid pieces. But of course, through our program, you have the tuition fee waiver. If you qualify for this through our, then you have free tuition at Texas public colleges and universities for the rest of your life, as long as you activate that before your 25th birthday. And so that's a really huge thing. It's a big help to getting through some of this job training that can really help you be more successful in your future. But of course, tuition is not the only cost. There's also the Education Training Voucher Program, which is a grant program, provides needs-based assistance for your post-secondary school, up to $5,000 a year. You qualify for up to 5 years of assistance, which Texas defines as being 15 semesters. And so we'll talk a lot about those financial aid pieces again next week. Also under our program, there's, of course, the extended foster care, where if you do age out of care, meaning you're in care, foster care on your 18th birthday, you do have the right to stay up until 21 if you wish. And a part of that program is our supervised independent living program, which has a variety of housing options available to you. It's paid for housing where you can start having that experience of living independently on your own. There's, depending on different programs that you're interested in, there's apartment programs, there's non-college residence halls. One of the things we're really excited about is a lot of our college partners, which includes A&M San Antonio, but we have 15 or 16 colleges and universities around the state that are now partnered with us, where through the SIL program, you can get your campus housing provided. And so there's a lot of different housing options for you to help you in that next step. For more information about any of these programs, you can, there's links here. I know those are kind of lengthy links. If you don't get a chance to scribble it all down right now, remember this will be going up on the internet sometime after we're done. Also, just reach out to your PAL staff. If you're not sure who that is, feel free to call me directly. You can also just Google Texas Preparation for Adult Living staff, and you'll get to a link to find who can assist you. with that, I'm going to be monitoring the chat. We'll have some time for questions at the end. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. I can bring those up. And I'm going to turn it over to our special guests here. It'll give just a second for us to switch these screens.
Can you see it, the presentation, or no?
Yes, just do the slideshow.
Okay, I just want to make sure you could see it. All
Yeah,
right.
but yeah, I can see it, yes. Awesome.
All right, great. So my name is Kim Nunez, and I'm the Executive Director of the Student Success Center at A&M San Antonio. And my partner here, I'm going to let her present herself.
Hi, everyone, and good evening. I'm Norma Davila, and I am, as Todd mentioned, the coordinator for foster care support services at Texas A&M University San Antonio. But I wanted to mention, too, that for your benefit, so feel free to ask questions. I have been working for the past 25 years with the PAL program at the San Antonio Transition Center before I came to A&M San Antonio. So I was their education specialist, so very familiar with all the processes of aging out and applying to college. So please ask lots of questions. All right, I've been doing this for a long time.
All right, so we're going to present to you on 5 steps to applying to college, and then I'm also going to talk to you about how to get enrolled after you get admitted. So I'm going to hand it off to Norma, and she's going to do the first part of the presentation.
Okay. So what I thought I would do was keep it simple. Okay, let's start with small steps. And I started with a checklist. So like I said, I've been doing this for many, many years, and I've met a lot of PAL youth when they are at the beginning stages of completing their life skills classes. So from my experience, this is what I came up with, is in middle school, between 9th and 10th grade, is to talk to friends, teachers, counselors, anyone you can think of, pick their brain, ask them what they did to get to their point in life, including myself. You know, how did you get to this point? What did you do? And as a matter of fact, no idea that I was going to be doing this for a living, but I did know what I liked and what I didn't like. I didn't like science and math, so my career is not in engineering or science, but I did like helping people. Also, start listing your favorite colleges or your favorite careers. Just write them down after you talk to people. You know, take a field trip, or if you go to a field trip, and the key to hear this part is to listen. Listen to people talk, and on a field trip, pick their brain and ask them, you know, what did you do to get to this point? And by the way, not everyone spent 4 years in a college. Sometimes they did a certificate program. And by the way, a lot of the colleges and universities that accept the waiver also have vocational programs that you can look into. Also, what is a PSAT? When I say take a practice PSAT, that is the pre-test that you will need to take. The PSAT is not necessary, but I highly recommend it. One of my many jobs here in San Antonio, like I said, I worked at the San Antonio Transition Center with the PAL program. One of my many jobs was, my nickname is the SAT Queen. I would help students prepare to take the SAT, and the key to that is the PSAT. The PSAT is a pre-test. It'll help you to decide, you know, well, what did I miss? What do I need to study? Do I need to review math? Do I need to review grammar? And actually, I can say that I am a proud parent of 2 sons that I sent off to college, and they took their PSATs in the 7th and 8th grade. And why? I'll tell you why that's important in a minute. So step 1 is start your checklist, and I would start that in middle school, 9th and 10th grade, and dream, dream, dream. Nothing is too crazy. Okay, I do want to tell you, one of my former foster youth came to tell me in the 8th grade, when I met him in the 8th grade, and by the way, he is now 30-something years old, started his own trucking delivery business. And he said he wanted to do that, and everybody laughed and made fun of him. Well, I can tell you right now, he is the owner of Bueno Enterprises, and he did a 2-year certificate program on truck driving and that kind of thing. So please ask questions. Nothing is too crazy or too stupid. Next slide. Continuation of the checklist. 11th and 12th grade, continue dreaming. You might change your mind, say, okay, you know what? I don't like math anymore. I really like English better. I like reading. Continue to look at your classes and see what you excel in. I would highly recommend 11th and 12th grade if you can do dual credit. So in the coming weeks, when they start talking to you about your tuition waiver letter, I have worked with many former foster youth that took dual credit and used the waiver while they were still in high school. I have many students who did that, and you can use the waiver to do dual credit. By the way, that can get you a little step ahead. You can probably graduate from high school with actually probably be about a semester of college if you do some dual credit. I would keep everything in the portfolio. That's on my next checklist. Everything that you participate in. In fact, attending this webinar, I would write it up and put a little note that you attended a webinar on college success with the PAL program. Completing your PAL classes, attending any field trips with PAL, anything you do inside and outside of school, write it down and keep notes because you never know when you're gonna need it. Now, remember I said take that PSAT? Well, 11th and 12th grade, that's the pre-test. You will actually take the real SAT and ACT, right? So think about that. You've been preparing for it. And by the way, those college entrance exams are one of the things that are required before you can be accepted to like an A&M San Antonio, UTSA, or any four-year institution. Look for scholarships and keep track of deadlines. 11th and 12th grade is the time to start applying. Oh my God, you guys, I have to tell you this right now. I am doing a guide and a notebook on scholarships just for former foster youth, and I have already 3 pages. There's a lot of information on there, and they all have a deadline. Please, at the end of this session, I'm going to give my phone number and my email, and I can share some of that information with you. But a lot of this is also on the DFPS website and with your PAL coordinator. There are tons of scholarships on those websites and information you can obtain. So keep track of that. So that's 11th and 12th grade. And then 11th and 12th grade, you're actually going to apply to college and keep track of the deadlines. Now, why I want you to keep a list of the different colleges, because maybe you're not sure if you want to do a 1-year, 2-year, the 4-year institution, but they all have different requirements and they all have different deadlines. So it's nice to keep track of that. So that's what your checklist should entail. Step 1, keeping down all that information and keeping it in a notebook. Next slide. All right, so step 2. Step 1, you've been investigating, you've been talking to people, you've been attending field trips, you're asking your friends, what do your friends do, or what do your friends' parents do, what does your friend Theo or Thea do for a living? You're asking all those questions. Now preparing for those college entrance exams. I'm a big proponent of this because, like I said, I am the SAT queen. If you look at what's on the test, reading, writing, and math. But I am going to tell you, students, it's not rocket science. It's algebra and geometry, as far as math is concerned, and it's reading and writing, and a lot of that is in your English 1 through 4 classes you take in high school. So that is the overview of the college entrance exams. If you are taking a PSAT, the PSAT is a mini version of this test, and it'll send you back your score report. It'll show you what you missed. You can review that. And why I'm a big proponent of taking your college entrance exams, no matter what you're going to do, even if you're only going to do a 1-year or 2-year program, because if you score high on this exam, there is some scholarship money available, and you can also be exempt from taking the TSI, which is the Texas Student Initiative test. That's a requirement for a 4-year institution and a 2-year institution. If you look at down there, I put the website, collegeboard.org. They have a lot of free information. I would take down their website. They also have scholarships that are associated with the PSAT and the SAT. And if you look at that, public institutions like all the A&M institutions have waived the SAT and the ACT for 2021 and 22. So make note of that. And you're saying, well, if they waived it, why do you need to take it? I would highly recommend that you take it, because if you score a college-ready score, you are exempt from other things, and you may have an opportunity to gain scholarships. So that's step 2. Step 1 is investigate. Step 2 is prepare for college entrance exam. Step 3, next slide. Okay, here are the college readiness benchmarks. And this is what I tell my students. They're thinking, oh my God, what do I need to score to have a passing grade? I want to say this is a big myth. It's not passing. There is no passing grade. You can't flunk this test. It's a college readiness score. The highest score you can make on an SAT is a 1600. That means an 800 on each one, like an 800 on the math or an 800 on the reading and writing. But if you look at that score of 530, is what is considered college ready. And if you were to come like to an A&M San Antonio and you made a 530, you would go directly into college algebra. If you made a 480 on your reading and writing, that is also considered college ready. So if you look at that, that's not too much higher than the lowest score you can make is a 400. But I am going to be very honest with you. When I have students call me and say, Ms. Davila, I made a 400 on my SAT. And I said, oh, that's great. Did you make a 400 on the math? Or did you make a 400 on the reading and writing? And they said, I made a 400 on both together. Then that's when I kind of panic a little bit, because students look at the 400. The 400 is everybody starts out with a 400 just by sitting down and taking the test. So that you just decide your name and turn it in, you make a 400. So getting a 480 in reading and writing is not an impossibility. And making a 530 in math is also not an impossibility. But remember, at 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, you really need to consider taking your algebra and geometries and English 1 through 4. And if at all possible, doing a dual credit in one of those classes or taking an AP or honors class in one of those classes. So by the way, college entrance exams and your high school curriculum coincide. The best way to prepare for college entrance exam is to prepare in high school and pass your courses with a C or above. Next slide. Okay, so there's that other test, the ACT. And if you look at it, not much of a difference. There's English, math, reading, and science. Now on the SAT, that other test, which is a college board, and by the way, you're saying, well, why is Ms. Davila talking about this? I am also a consultant to ACT and I'm a consultant to College Board. Both test prep companies hire me to go across the city of San Antonio to do SAT and ACT prep for students. So I'm very familiar with the test. Some of my students say, Ms. Davila, I'm not going to take the ACT because there's science on there. Well, there's science on the other test. It said reading, writing, and math, right? Well, on the SAT, the science passages are integrated into the reading and writing part. So there are science passages on both tests. Both of them have essay optional. So let me give you an example. Texas A&M San Antonio does not require an essay. So you can take the ACT or the SAT without the essay. It's optional. But I'm also going to be very honest on this part. I tell all my students to take both exams, to take them both. Okay, most Texas colleges, and actually the Texas colleges that accept the waiver, will accept either the SAT or the ACT, and I'll accept both. And I'm going to use myself as an example. I became the SAT queen of San Antonio back when my kids were 5 and 6. They are now 32 and 33. So I've been the SAT queen for a very long time. And I want to show you this, and I want everyone to listen carefully. They took their PSAT in the 7th grade. They took their PSAT in the 8th grade. They took their PSAT in the 9th grade. They took their PSAT in the 10th grade. And the last time you can take a pre-SAT is in the 11th grade. So if you look at that, remember, their mother was the SAT queen. They weren't too happy about it, but they took it 5 times. Every time they took it, I got the score report back. I looked at what they missed, and I said, go talk to your English teacher about this problem. Go talk to your math teacher about this problem. Go talk to your science teacher about this problem, and let's just practice, okay? Junior year, they were both juniors, and they took the SAT the first Saturday in June, which is actually the last time you can take, in the school year, the last time you can take an SAT is the first Saturday in June. And then they took their ACT the second Saturday in June. And they were juniors. Remember, they had taken it 5 times, the PSAT, and they were taking their SATs and the ACT for the first time in their junior year. From junior year to senior year that summer, we got the score report back. And guess what, you guys? I was jumping for joy, and so were my sons. They both took their SAT and ACT 1 time and made the score they needed to get into the college of their choice. So the things I'm telling you today, I know they work. Again, that's why I've been the SAT queen for 25 years. Studying and preparing and doing the things that I'm asking you to do, starting in as early as 8th grade if you can. If you're in high school right now, now is the time to start. And go to the website, www.act.org. And both of those college entrance exams at both of the websites has the practice test that you can do for free. And in fact, they both have a lot of test prep you can do for free. I offer this to all my students for free as an SAT queen, and I ask them to use the information on the website. You shouldn't have to pay for any of this. So anyway, my sons are the perfect example. My oldest went to Texas A&M Corpus Christi. He's part of the A&M system. And my youngest went to UT Austin, and they both only took their SATs and ACTs once. By senior year, yes, Todd.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to interject here. We're getting we have a question in the chat. Someone's asking, if you take one of the SAT or ACT, do you have to, or should you take both?
You should take both. If I were your parent, I would tell you to take both. And that's part of my story. I had been preparing my sons for the SAT, that other test, all those years. When they took them both, guess what happened? It was the ACT. It was this one that we're looking at right now. That's the one that got them into college, not the other one. And I had been prepping them all this time for the other one. So what happened was a light bulb went off in my head. You prepare for one, you prepare for both. They both have English on it. They both have math on it. They both have reading, and they both have science. So it just depends. My sons were better at this test because they were math and science people. They love math. Some students do better on the other one if they really love reading and English, because on the other test, on the SAT, the reading and English is a little bit longer. On this one, the math is a little bit longer. So because the math had more problems, they did better on the math and the science section on the ACT. So it just all depends. But I tell my students to take them both. And as a foster youth and part of the PAL program, you can get your fee waived. So it's a free test. And you can get your fee waived every year that you want to take it. So there's no cost to taking these tests. Okay. Any other questions, Todd, on that?
Someone's asking, can I take the ACT if you were a senior?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the other myth. You can take it as many times as you want. But what I'm trying to say, if you practice a pre-SAT and a pre-ACT before your junior and senior year, you only have to take it once, is what I'm saying. The more practice you start earlier, you don't want to take an SAT 5 times. That's not fun. So if you practice beforehand, junior and senior year, you will only need, with practice, you will only need to take it once. I highly recommend you practice. And both slides, by the way, Todd, you said this was going to be on video. You can go to each of these slides and go to the website and get the free training. Both websites and both college entrance exam companies have free test prep on their websites. Okay.
And sorry, I'm going to jump in here one more.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Someone also is asking, someone made the comment that they were told they can only get a certain number of waivers for each test. That is correct. My understanding is there is a certain number of waivers maximum you can qualify for, but you can get one each year.
Per year. Yeah, per year. It's usually 2 waivers per year. Okay, so like one for the SAT and one for the ACT, 2 per year. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so here's the ACT college readiness benchmarks. English is an 18, reading is a 22, math is a 22, and a science is a 23. So again, what all this means is that that's the score that's required to be ready for college level English or college level math. And again, both of the companies, the test prep companies, ACT and SAT, have all the materials ready for you to prepare and do a practice test to see where you lie and how to get close, you know, how to get an 18 or a higher in English, for example. All right, next slide. All right, step 3, applying to college. Oh boy, here we go. So we've been investigating, we've been talking to people, we're trying to get an idea of what college we want to go to or what we want to major in. The first step to applying is to go to the applytexas.org. And what's nice about that, and I put the website up there, is that most Texas colleges and universities that accept the waiver are on this website. So you do one application, it's pretty awesome. You do one application and you can apply up to as many colleges as you like. I mean, you can apply to 20 if you want at one website, and it's one application. So all you have to do is copy and paste. Like, for example, I want to go to A&M San Antonio. You apply to A&M San Antonio, you copy and paste, and you can put it to A&M Corpus Christi, for example. And it's all with a click of a mouse. Next thing you'll need is to submit your SAT and ACT scores. You will do that on the websites I gave you previously. You will, once you take the test, you tell the companies where you want them to send your scores. And I think you can send it for free up to 8 colleges on the websites. You will need your high school transcript. So your senior year, you will need to go to the registrar's office and tell them to send your high school transcripts to the colleges of your choice. And again, you can pick as many colleges as you like. Okay, make sure that if you take a dual credit at one of the community colleges, to make sure you'll need to go to the community college and request a separate transcript from them to send along with your college applications. Some of the colleges may accept or require letters of recommendation or an essay, and then please check your deadline. So I would do a checklist just for this. You know, checklist number 1, apply Texas application. Did I submit my test scores? Did I submit my high school transcripts? Did I submit my letters of recommendation? And then did I do it by the deadline? And by the way, deadlines are important. If the deadline, by the way, is for seniors, if I have any seniors on the call, some colleges and universities have December 1 as a priority deadline. Okay. If I get it in September 2nd, is that too late? Not necessarily. Look for priority deadlines. That means that they're doing early admissions, but some of them have deadlines after spring, like in January, February, or March. But make sure you keep track, because if the final deadline, this is the other thing that's kind of tricky. Colleges and universities have on their website the priority deadline, and then they have the final deadline. Make sure you look at the final deadline, and that's final. If it's, let's say if it's February 15th and you send it February 16th, it's too late and won't be accepted. All right, so make sure you look at priority deadline and final deadline. Next slide.
Okay, another question here, Norma.
Yes.
Someone said in the chat says that they just moved to a new school in August, and that they won't. The school says they won't have their transcript until after the due date. Is that going to be an issue, or what should they do about it?
Yes, tell them to send. They can still send a transcript of what they currently have, and they'll send the final one later. Most seniors, I'm going to be honest, if you want to do priority deadline, most seniors aren't graduating till May, and priority deadline is December 1. They can send the transcript that they have currently on file, and then put that they'll send the final transcript in May or June when they graduate. Okay? So in other words, it's going to only include everything up to their junior year and what they're currently enrolled in their senior year. but the college will expect a final transcript upon graduation. And I'll have Kim elaborate on that when it's her turn to speak, because I know A&M San Antonio does that too. They will take current, in other words, current high school transcripts, what you have right now, and then the final transcript after you graduate. And be sure you send everything by the deadline. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is, I think I talked about this. Oh, the meningitis record. Students, this is really, really important. And I want to say from my experience of working with the PAL program and the San Antonio Transition Center, this was sometimes hard to obtain. Your shot records, oh my God, please keep copy of your shot records. And that's the bacterial meningitis that everybody must have, especially if they're, and Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, I think younger than 22, you must have your bacterial meningitis shot, or they will not let you enroll. Even if you've been accepted, they will put a hold on you going to the next thing.
Yes,
and then
you
your
have
TS,
to have it in.
go ahead.
You have to have that proof of that shot 10 days prior to school starting. And I can explain that when we get to the enrollment steps.
Yes, so shot records, anything with your health. I know you're probably thinking, what does that have to do with college? But you'd be surprised. And maybe your doctor, maybe you had the shot. Most students who have, are in a foster home or in a placement, in most cases have that shot already, but they're not aware of it. So try to get your health record if you can. Your TSI scores, I think the Texas high schools will ask you if you want to take a TSI while you're still in high school. I would highly recommend that you do that. If you didn't score high enough on your SAT or your ACT, then you will need to take a TSI. I would highly recommend it while you're still in high school, and then get a copy of that. And then your letters of recommendation from your high school counselor or anyone, a teacher, a close friend, a relative, somebody who's known you a while and can vouch for you being a good student. I would definitely try to get those early on, especially like maybe early senior year. Okay, next slide. All right, financial aid. I know you're going to talk about that probably next week, but this is a biggie. And why I put this slide on here is because in my 25 years of working with foster youth, this is what you will need most definitely. Your social security number. And having it by memory is not enough. You need a copy, okay? And if it's not the real one, at least the paper copy of it. Because as the person, and I'm going to speak for myself, as a person that's actually, I was a financial aid officer. As a person who actually has to fill out that application, we have to verify, we are by law really, or ethically obligated to look, when you give it to me by memory, I am supposed to look at that social security card and verify it from your memory and that it matches. If something should happen and it does not match on your financial aid application and it gets kicked back, and by the way, students, I don't know if y'all know this, but when you fill out that financial aid form, they match your records with the Social Security Administration. And if it doesn't match, it gets sent back. And so many of my foster youth that I worked with, this would happen and they would get sent back, and it takes another 6 weeks before the financial aid application is processed. So the Social Security number, get your hands on a copy of it, try to get your official Social Security card and keep it in a safe place. Your driver's license, that's another one. If you have one, you will need a copy of that. If you don't have it, don't worry. It's not a requirement on the form like your Social Security number is. Your tax returns, a 1040 and a W-2, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. because when students would come and see me at the PAL office and I'd say, bring your 1040 and a W-2, they would look at me with a blank stare and say, what is that? So I'm going to show you what it looks like. Create your FSA ID, and I'm sure you're going to talk about this next week, Todd, but one thing you can do now is go to the financial aid website, and I put it on there, fafsa.ed.gov. That's a mouthful. And do nothing, if you do nothing else right now, but create an ID. Create an ID so you can always have it. It's your username and your password, because you're going to need it every year. Every year that you apply for financial aid, you're going to need to log in with your FSA ID. That's your federal student aid identification. And that's how you apply for the grant. You've got to have a username and you have to have a password. So start thinking about that now. And then I put this one website, fastweb.com. It's one of my favorites on applying to scholarships, because with the fastweb.com, once you fill out that identification information, everything about you, it's like filling out a job application. You tell them everything about you. Then what starts to happen is you'll start getting in your email all these scholarship information. And the FastWeb, it just opens the door to other free websites. And by the way, free, free, free. I need to say something right here. If you're on a website that says you must pay $50 to do your federal financial aid, it's a scam. If you're on a website that says you must pay $50 or $60 to get scholarships, it's a scam. Be very careful. All this stuff is free. Okay, it's free, free, free. You should not be charged for any of this. So that's why I like fastweb.com. It'll keep you on track with all the free websites. All right. Next slide. Here are the two forms. And I put this in bold print. Keep all your documents in a safe place. The one on the left that says 1040, that is an income tax return. When you file for taxes, and most of you are young, you probably have never filed for taxes. This is what it looks like. And this is what a person like me will need to see in order to help you apply for your federal financial aid. I need to look at this because the federal financial aid form will specifically ask me for information directly off of this form. And if you don't have it, I can't fill out certain parts of the information. If you're a high school student and you never did a tax return and you did a summer job, you're going to have a W-2, and that's the form on the right. The W-2 will come, for example, like if you worked at McDonald's or Burger King or Walmart or H-E-B or one of those places, at the end of the year, they have to send you a W-2. So if you never filed for your taxes, I can use a W-2 to help you fill out your financial aid form. And in all the years I've been doing this, in fact, I could probably get into the Guinness Book of World Records for how many FAFSAs I've done for former foster youth. I've done many and many, many. This is the part that would always put like a, they'd always have to call me and make an appointment to come back because they had to go find these forms, and they're hard to find. You either got to call the IRS or you got to call your former employer. So once you get these, keep them in a safe place. But be very careful. Your social security number's on there, your birth date's on there, all your personal information. If anybody gets their hands on these two forms, they can steal your identity. And again, it has happened to many foster youth I've worked with. They've had some stranger got a hold of these forms and are applying for a Pell Grant using their social security number and birth date. So be careful. Todd, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, and I just want to interject here because I know there's probably some people with some questions around this. When you go to do your FAFSA, there's one of the questions when you're applying for it is going to be about having been in foster care. You're going to check yes that you were in foster care. That means that you will not have to have this information for a caregiver or a parent, where most people do. But if you're working a job yourself, it's still going to ask questions about your income, and so that's where you would need to have these forms. So I don't want to confuse anybody. You don't have to show if you're filling this out correctly, you will not have to show any kind of income for a parent or a guardian or anything like that. But you do need to have records of your own income if you've been working a job.
Perfect. Exactly. Todd, you are correct. So it's the 1040 for you and a W-2 for you, no one else. In fact, you are exactly right. If you are eligible for the waiver, in most cases, you will need the 1040 that's only in your name or the W-2 that's only in your name. No parent, no grandparent, or no foster parent. Okay? All right, next slide. All right, so this is.
All right, I'm taking over. Yeah. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take over here. Okay, so you've applied, right? Norma's gone through all the steps of like, I've applied, I've done my 5 steps, and now I don't really know what happens next. So here's what you can expect from most colleges and universities. Once you apply, you should get a letter and an email, and know that it's going to go to the email address you used in Apply Texas. So that website that Norma was referencing that you can apply to 20 different schools, they're going to use whatever email. Sometimes what I've seen that's been problematic is someone uses their high school email and then it stops working after May sometimes. And so we can't communicate with the students. So think about that when you apply. If you have a Gmail, if you have a Hotmail, if you have some other kind of email that's your personal email, you should probably use that. So you're going to get a letter or an email thanking you for applying, and then it's going to give you directions on how to apply, how to check the status of your application. Typically, you're going to be given a login and a password to a portal. It'll give you the website to the portal in the email. It'll give you your login and your temporary password. And this is what you'll go in and look at when you want to know the status of your application. You want to know, did I get admitted? Did I not get admitted? Am I being, where is the decision process? And a lot of times it'll tell you where it's at when you go into that portal. You'll know, is it at committee review? And committee review means like your ACT and SAT scores maybe don't match the minimum requirements, but there's a really great letter of recommendation there. And so they're looking at the other things to see if they can admit you. And it'll tell you if you're in committee review or something like that. Once a decision is made, you will receive communication via snail mail, typically, okay? So you'll get a letter in the mail. Now, you can still check the portal. That's one thing students don't often realize, is that you could still be checking that portal and you'll see whether or not you've been admitted. But the official communication from the university is going to come via mail. And it's going to be like a letter saying, congratulations, we're so excited to add you to the blank family, whether it's the Roadrunners or the Jaguars or the Aggies or whatever you're trying to get into. You'll receive a congratulatory letter if you are admitted. And sometimes you'll even in the mail get a banner that says, I got accepted. And that's kind of your first step. So you're waiting for those letters and emails to come to you. You can always check the portal for the status of your application, but if you want that formal approval of your, admitted or not, that's going to come through the mail, and you'll probably get a little banner or something. Something like this. So this is the Jaguar, and it says, future Jaguar, I got accepted. A lot of times you get things like this in the mail from the place that you applied to. So I got accepted, yay. Okay, so I've been admitted. I got in, now what? Because there's a lot of steps to the enrollment process, and it's not always easy. So a lot of times you'll start getting emails from the university after you've been admitted, or the college, telling you, hey, we need your TSI scores. And you're going to be like, what's that? I thought I did my SAT and my ACT. Like Norma said earlier, there's a college readiness standard cutoff scores, and she showed you those on the screens before, and you'll have this video so you'll get to see, go back and look at those scores. So those scores are what the university, and all universities and colleges in Texas will use. That's the college readiness score. And so they're going to use that to say whether or not you need to take the TSI, which is the Texas Success Initiative exam. If you meet those readiness standards, you don't have to take the TSI. You'll just automatically be made exempt. But if you don't make those scores, then you may get emails or letters from the university asking you to take the TSI. And this is if you're applying to a public college or university. Private institutions do not require the TSI, but just know that they don't take your tuition and fee waiver typically. So if you have to take that test, that typically, like Norma was saying, try to take it in high school. Just take it. It's free in high school to take it. Your school should be able to administer it to you. If you take it in high school, it's free. You'll get it out of the way, and you can just submit the scores. So you'll probably get a letter saying, hey, we need you to take the TSI exam or submit scores. And here's how you submit a score. And it'll give you directions on how to submit that TSI score. And you just do that. And the institution is able to pull your scores without you having to go through and take the test again. Now, if you hadn't taken the test, then any institution you're trying to get into should be able to give you the tests themselves or direct you back to your high school and take it there. Now, obviously, if you still haven't taken it and we're sitting in the summer before your freshman year would start, you're most likely going to have to take that exam at the institution you're trying to get into. Note that I know during this COVID time, to take the exam, the TSI, you can take it remotely. There is fees charged for that. So just know that if you can't do it in person, that there's extra fees that go on to doing it virtually. Now, Norma brought up the dual credit transcript. No institution, no public university is going to require that dual credit transcript for you to be admitted. But we really, really need it once you've been admitted so that when you're getting enrolled and you start picking out your classes, we're not telling you to take something that you already took and got credit for through dual credit. So again, we're not going to ask for it for your admissions purposes. We're going to ask for your high school transcript, but we're not going to ask for the dual credit. But when you're going through that process of, okay, now I've been admitted, okay, now I'm, taking the TSI or I'm submitting the scores. Do I have dual credit? Yeah, I have a couple classes dual credit. Make sure you send that transcript, and you are going to have to go through the community college that you did it through. So for example, if you live in San Antonio, most of the time you've done dual credit through Alamo colleges. So you would contact them and have the transcript sent from them. The tough part about dual credit transcripts, just so you guys are aware, is a lot of times the community college is not going to send that out until the final high school transcript has come out, which usually is June or July, to be quite honest. And so it's normal for you maybe not to have that dual credit transcript when you come to orientation, which I'll talk about in a minute. That's okay. You can print off an unofficial just to help your advisor, but we will need a dual credit official transcript before school starts at least. Norma brought up the bacterial meningitis shot. Again, you don't need it to get admitted, but we do need it 10 days before classes begin. Every public institution will need it 10 days before their classes begin. Typically, you have to upload a proof of that shot into an online system at most institutions. So just know that don't wait 10 days till, okay? If you're waiting, wait maybe 15 or 20 days before school starts, because the process of uploading it into these systems, it's an outside entity, it's an outside company that's doing that. And so they may not, they may take a couple of days to process your shot record. And so it sometimes, like if the picture you take of your shot record is blurry, then they won't accept it and they'll make you upload it. So just what I'm saying is don't wait till 10 days before school starts to try and upload it for the first time. Go 20 days out at least if you haven't done it yet for that school year. Like if you're going through the enrollment process and you forget, don't wait till the 10 days before, because then you're going to be really cutting it close. Housing. Do you want to live on campus? Is it a requirement to live on campus? Some institutions will make it a requirement for all freshmen. You have to live on campus. Sometimes they'll have waivers to get out of that, but you'll have to know those processes. So what I would recommend if you want to live on campus or you don't, and you're not really sure of the rules, I would go onto a college website that you're thinking of attending and Google housing on their search website. Like just go to their main page, and go to their search button and type in housing. And you'll probably be brought up to their housing website where they'll tell you if they have a policy of all freshmen have to live on campus. Or I'll give you an example. At A&M San Antonio, if you live within 30-mile radius of the institution, you don't have to live on campus. But if you live outside of that, there's a requirement. So and you're not going to know that kind of stuff just on your own. So it's really, you're going to have to research. And it's okay to contact that school. If you go to that housing website, you should have a phone number where you can contact somebody and say, can you explain housing to me? Another thing I might recommend is if you're really thinking of living in housing, contact that school and contact the housing and see if you can do a tour. Because if you can do a tour at the beginning of your senior year, or if any of you guys are seniors right now, see if you can go do a tour of a place that you want to live at or you're thinking about it. Because in that tour, they're going to have to explain their policies, how much it costs to live in the housing, and all of that kind of stuff. And so you'll get more educated and know, is this something I really want to do, or do I want to live in an apartment, or can I live in an apartment, something like that. So just be aware. I would highly recommend trying to tour the place before you make a decision on it. Okay, so earlier Todd brought up the SIL program. So in Texas, extended care, supervised independent living programs pay for housing and your meal plan at the college that you're attending up to the age of 21. So here is listed all the different SIL programs in Texas right now at universities and colleges. So look at that. That's a lot of choices and a lot of really good choices. So if you're on the fence about housing, this is a great opportunity for you to get your housing paid for in a dorm up to the age of 21 and your meal plan. And when I say meal plan, what I mean is like most colleges have a cafeteria. They might have several if they're big. I went to Texas A&M in College Station, and so we had like, I don't know, 15 or 20 of those. So you would be able to use your ID card. It's usually where your meal plan lives, and swipe it, and it's all covered by SIL. So you're not worrying about like, where's my breakfast going to come from? Where's my lunch? Where's my dinner? Your housing is paid for and your meal plan is paid for. Now, if you go to a big institution, if you go to a large school like I did, there'll be different meal plan options. You know, do I want this lower one? Do I want this higher one? And if you're going to go into a SIL program, there should be somebody at that institution that you can reach out to directly who's running the SIL program and who can talk to either your PAL counselor, or they can talk to DFPS, or you can kind of have a go-between conversation about what housing could fit into your SIL plan payments, because there is a certain amount that it pays for. And then what meal plan and what hall. Like, again, I went to College Station, so there's tons and tons of dorms. So you got to figure out which one fits into the amount of money that you would receive per month. If you choose a place like A&M San Antonio, which is smaller, well, we only have one dorm and one meal plan. So it's pretty simple. It pays for it, that's that. But you need to know that if you're going to Corpus Christi, for example, they have several options of the hall and several options of meal plans. But just know that at the end of the day, if you choose this option, which I would highly recommend, up to the age of 21, you're not thinking about your housing and you're not thinking about your meal plan. And what's great is all of us have to stay open year long to be a SIL provider. And so there's no time that we're going to ask you to leave the hall. Thanksgiving, it's open. The Christmas break, it's open. It's open all through the summer. So you don't have to worry about those types of things. And then here's our site. I think Norma's going to take over and just kind of give you a quick rundown of the SIL site here at A&M San Antonio.
Okay, as Kim mentioned, we are a supervised independent living site. And actually, Kim is the foster care liaison at Texas A&M San Antonio, and I am the coordinator of foster care support system services. And we also have a person who monitors the supervised independent living. And her name is DeAndrea Davila, but we're not related. Same last name, but we're not related. So as she mentioned, so if you did decide to go this route and do a supervised independent living site, that is at A&M San Antonio. And the right, that is what the dorm looks like from the outside. And if you look on the left, that is the dorm room on the inside. So I I think there's and correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, but I think we have a 4-plex and a 2-plex, so you could have 4 students sharing a bathroom, 2 on each side, or you have 2 roommates. Is that correct?
Yes, so you would have, and again, you need to know this about the places that you would select at any other institution. What kind of style would you be living in? So ours is called suite style. You have a roommate, and then you share the restroom with 2 people on the other side. That's called suite style. Or you would live alone and you share the restroom with the person on the other side. So that's what we have. Again, we only have 1 dorm, but when you're investigating, you got to kind of know, if I want to do this, do I want a roommate? Do I want a suite style? Or what options is this college or university even giving me in terms of my living situation?
Yeah, so as she mentioned, I would definitely go visit, because you got to see, they also match you with a roommate. You'll fill out an application and they try to match you with someone that has your similar interests, personality, and that type of thing. So go visit. My son went to Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and as Kim mentioned, he did have to live in the dorms his freshman year, and they were totally different than what you're looking at right now. There's so many different options. They have some that look like apartments, and you can have your own apartment, but they're a little expensive. And then they had the suite mates that there were 2 on each side that shared a bathroom. So definitely go look, go visit, see what you like. But I would highly recommend, because if you can get your dorm paid for and your meals, that's one less thing you need to worry about. And as a mother who sent 2 kids to college and had to pay their dorm, let me tell you, that is very costly. So I highly recommend the SIL program. Next slide. Do you want to talk about this one, Kim? Is that me or you?
I'll do it.
Okay.
So this is just to really quickly plug Bexar County Fostering Educational Success Pilot Program. A&M San Antonio, UTSA, and Alamo Colleges in San Antonio, we're all part of a grant and that's why Norma is able to work on our campus, because of this grant that is working to create access to post-secondary education, bring awareness of education opportunities and resources and services. And obviously our target audience is foster youth that can go to college and could go to college. So we're trying to increase our students attending A&M San Antonio from 80% to 85%, retaining them, and increase our GPA from 1.75 to 2.0. So we're just part of this grant that is sort of analyzing how all of us in San Antonio could be doing a better job to serve you guys. And then finally, I'll have Norma just talk about FATE really quick.
With that being said, okay, we talked about the Supervised Independent Living Program, and Kim showed you all the colleges in Texas that offer that. Each one of those institutions will have a person like me or a person like Kim who will walk you through this process. Not all of them are part of the Bexar County program, but they will have a liaison, or they will have a supervised independent liaison who will walk you through this process. What's nice about the pilot project is that they were able to hire me, and I'm specifically, my job and my role is to operate what we call the FATE program. And you think, what is FATE? And I know that little flyer is kind of small, so I'm going to tell you what that means. It means fostering, assistance, transition, and education. So if somebody walks into A&M San Antonio, they have the waiver to pay their tuition, then the admissions person or a financial aid person or someone on campus can say, oh, you're eligible for the FATE program. Instead of saying, oh, you're a foster youth, here, go there. No, that's not what they're going to say. They're going to say, you're eligible for the FATE program. And the FATE program, that's me, I'm the coordinator, and Kim is the liaison of all the foster care services on campus. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure that your ETV is filled out, your financial aid application is filled out, you're not missing anything to get awarded your financial aid award letter. We have a supply pantry where we have food, hygiene products, school supplies. We will help you with a financial literacy. We have a lounge area. In fact, let me show them the next slide, Kim, if we can go to the next slide. this is what our center looks like. We have what we call the Student Support Center, the FATE Center. That my office is right across from that. So in there, it looks a little bit different. We added some more stuff. We have a TV. We have 5 laptops that you can check out. Or we have a coffee maker, a microwave, a refrigerator. So what's really nice about the center is the FATE Center students that are eligible, that have the waiver and are using the waiver to pay their tuition can come and hang out there and just make sure that they have the resources they need to succeed and move on from one semester of college to the next. And like I said, we'll go through the whole admissions process, financial aid process, ETV process. I just finished helping a student today do a resume. This student has a real good opportunity of getting a job on campus and working from home to work remotely. And I helped her do her resume today. We also provide community resources. So what's available outside of the campus, that any kind of resources you will need. We have housing resources. I just finished compiling a list of housing and apartments close to A&M San Antonio that the students can go look at if they don't want to live in the dorm. We do financial literacy workshops. And in fact, we're doing one on Thursday. We're having a workshop for all our students on Thursday on how to manage their finances. We have an emergency fund, so anyone that's using the waiver can apply for a $300 emergency fund every academic year. So that means from August to May. If for something ETV didn't cover, your financial aid cover, and you're in need of money, we have an emergency fund, and then we do referrals. So we work real closely with the PAL program and just mentorships, anything in San Antonio or any agency in San Antonio that works with former foster youth, we have a connection. And what's nice about it is that I've been in this business for a long time, that we have a lot of resources in our office. So it's a nice, safe place to come and hang out. And we call it the FATE Center. And I'm by the way, I have to say this, I'm really, I really miss it. I can't wait till this COVID is over, because before this happened, that picture right there, it was full of students. Right now, when I go to the office, it's kind of empty, and we do everything virtually. I can meet with students on that TV that you see there. But right now we're doing things virtually. But anyway, here are the information of Kim's information. She's the foster care liaison. My information, I'm the foster care support coordinator. I run the FATE Center. And then DeAndrea Davila's information, and she supervises the Supervised Independent Living Program. And this is what we do.
Excellent.
Any questions?
So yeah, a few questions we've had. Give me just a second here. Yeah. Hard to get the chat box open. One question in the chat, and while I go through some of these, anyone else, if you have questions, please feel free to put questions into the question pane or the chat pane. But someone asked about financial aid applying for adopted kids. I guess that's more a question for me. If you've been adopted out of CPS care, you will qualify for the tuition fee waiver. And then as far as the education training voucher, if that adoption happened after your 16th birthday, you would still qualify for that funding. And of course, we would still encourage you either way to of course go through with your FAFSA for looking at other forms of financial aid you'll qualify for. And again, that'll be a big topic for next week.
Todd, can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Because we work with adopted students at A&M San Antonio, and you are correct with what you said. But if you were adopted before the age of 13, some students do have the waiver. I have a couple of students who were adopted before 13, and they have the waiver, but they will need their parents' 1040 and W-2. But that's only if you were adopted before 13.
Correct.
And actually, they asked that question on the FAFSA. Yeah, those two questions on that FAFSA, how old were you when you were in care, are very important. If you said yes, you were in care, and how old were you, those are the important questions.
Yeah, and also the kinds of supports that Norma and Davia, or I'm sorry, Norma and Kim were talking about at San Antonio are available at all of our school, public colleges and universities. Every school, I think I may have mentioned it earlier. If I didn't, though, I do want to be sure and mention every public college and university in Texas has a foster care liaison. If you don't know who that is, talk to your PAL worker, call me directly. I'll put you in touch with those people. We can give you a list of all the liaisons in Texas. And so all of our campuses in Texas have a variety of supports and a specific person you can go to get your questions answered, to help you navigate applying to the college and figuring out, because every school is going to have a little bit different processes here and there for how things get done and different people to talk to. So those liaisons are really, really key. Some of these campuses have really, really cool, very developed programs of support. So I highly recommend you reach out to them. I know specifically to housing, there's mention of doing tours, and someone mentioned that there aren't tours going on right now. And I did answer that in the chat box, but I would just say that I know some schools have attempted to do things like virtual tours. Stay in touch with your PAL coordinators. We try to do a lot of events in both regionally and statewide. We partner with a lot of our colleges and universities. But I would also go back to what I was just talking about, those foster care liaisons. If you have questions about housing or who to talk to or what those costs are, anything, that liaison's the person to reach out to. And they if they don't know the answer for their campus, they'll be able to put you in touch with whoever it is that can answer your questions, so that you're getting your questions about housing answered, so that you're getting your questions about your applications and the whole process for that school answered. Yeah. And so again, if you need that information, you can Google it. You can talk to your PAL coordinators to get the list. You can contact me directly, give me a call or an email, and I'll get the list to you.
Yeah, and now with COVID, a lot of the colleges and universities have put virtual tours on their websites. So they didn't have them before. Now a lot of colleges and universities are posting those. So look for the virtual tours.
Let's see. Someone asked, so the foster kids are eligible for the SIL program. So supervised independent living is a part of extended foster care. The requirements to be a part of that program is that you age out of foster care, and or that you turn 18 while you're in foster care, and that you be 18 years old. You have to be 18 to move into a SIL program. But if you have questions about the SIL program, reach out to me, reach out to your PAL coordinators. We'll help navigate you through applying for those. And there's a whole process to it, and we can help you find the list of all the available placements. You saw the slide earlier, and again, that'll be available online here eventually, but there's 15, 16 universities that have campus housing, but there's other forms of housing too that are available. There's apartment housing, there's shared housing, there's non-college dorm housing. There's a lot of different providers. Someone asked, do you have to be in foster care after you were 18 for the tuition waiver? No, there's a variety of ways you qualify for the tuition waiver. All this is available online. Again, contact me, contact your PAL staff. But just quickly to go over it, the ways you can qualify for the tuition waiver is if you age out of foster care, which means you are in foster care on the day you turn 18. If you are adopted out of foster care, if you were in foster care, but permanent custody was given to a family member or fictive kin member after September of 2009, you would qualify. And if you were in permanent conservatorship of the department after your 14th birthday, then even if you do go back to family, you qualify. And if you were in temporary conservatorship of the department after your 16th birthday, then even if you were to go back to parents, you would still qualify for the tuition waiver. And so if you have questions about whether or not you qualify, reach out to me, reach out to your PAL staff. We can answer those questions for you specifically. But there's a lot of different ways you can qualify for that. Any other questions, anybody? I'm not seeing anything else. Norma, Kim, do you have any final thoughts or anything for us?
I think just, figuring out where you want to go, going on their website, doing a virtual tour if it's there, looking at their admissions deadlines. If you just click on future student, that's usually like where you would go. Click on future student and you'll see all the deadlines. Like Norma was saying, there's priority. That's usually December 1 for most institutions. And then there'll be the final deadline. And when they say final deadline, they're wanting your high school transcript, not the final high school, but they want your most current high school transcript and all of your documents in on that final date. You can't just apply, you need to also have everything in. So don't wait to that date, right? Try to do it earlier than that, but just know everybody's different and everybody has final dates. Some are early, some are later, just depending on what type of institution it is. Sometimes community colleges will have a lot longer rolling dates is what they call it, or they'll allow you to apply much later than maybe a 4-year university would. But just, if you're a senior right now and you're just like, oh no, they gave me all this information and I'm feeling overwhelmed, look for your foster liaison, because that person should be able to walk you through applying and enrolling. If nothing else, find out who that is at the institution that you want to go to and start getting help.
Excellent. Thanks, guys, so much for joining us and sharing with our youth. Those of you who tuned in, I hope you'll join us next week. We did a random draw on 3 names. We're going to get some participation prizes. And remember, again, if you participate all 3 weeks, you'll qualify for some additional possible, to be in the drawing for some additional gifts as well. Thanks so much for taking some time out to join us this evening. We wish you all the best of luck in your journey. If you have any questions, reach out to your PAL staff, reach out to your foster care liaisons. We're here to support you. We're cheering for you. We want you to be successful. Thanks so much. You guys have a wonderful evening.
Yes. Thank you. It was nice meeting all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.